We've got flags and banners, and if you mind your manners, we might even get to standards and what they represent. So just take my voice's hand and we'll both try to understand how this vexillologic podcast could be flagged for content. Flagged for content.
What's up, Vex Heads? Welcome to episode 7 of Flagged for Content, the only podcast with things in its search history like Trebuchet Town. We will get to that later. I am your host, as I am every 2 weeks, Andy Richardson. And I've got a few housekeeping things to get out of the way before we get into the episode. First off, as many of you know, we do an Instagram contest in between every episode where I will put up a flag from my collection, take a picture of it, put it up, and whoever gets it right first gets a shout out at the top of the episode. And this episode's winner happens to be at Fimo Flags of the World. I think it's Fimo. I think it's a brand name, but it's Fimo. And it's a type of clay. So what they do with this account is they have just been creating all the flags of the world in like tiny little bits. Like I have no idea how they get some of the detail on these, but tiny little clay flags, almost like a Play-Doh, but like better for crafting. Anyway, go check them out. It's at Fimo Flags of the World, all one word. And speaking of Instagram, check ours out this week, because I am going to be putting up not just the usual audio clip with a few pictures that I've started doing, but the pictures this week are going to be me holding the actual flags that we go over in the episode, because I got them from Flags for Good, which is at Flags for Good on everything. Go check them out for sure. They've got a lot of really cool flags, including these ones. Also, like, great quality flags and good prices. So I don't know, they're not a sponsor, but I really like what they're doing, and if they want to throw a free one my way, I'm not going to turn it down. So anyway, and last but not least, I used to do a show. It started off as a trio of us, but it was called In Chaos We Trust, mostly about politics and current events. And once the other couple hosts left, I decided to carry on for a few more episodes because Russia had just invaded Ukraine. So I think the most recent 4 episodes of that are actually kind of companion pieces to this, if you want the full story of a lot of that, because a lot of it, especially the first one, is a history lesson more so than just equivocating about the current political situation. So go listen to those if you get a chance, have some spare time, whatever. They're still up there, even though they're a few months old. And I think that's it. So without anything further, let's go ahead and move on into the episode. We have got a great returning guest for you guys this week. You know him from episode 3 of this very podcast. You may know him as a producer for the movie Found Footage Dracula. And you know him as the DM and host of the podcast Spooky Dice Bag. It's Kickassatron!
Hey man, how's it going?
It's going well, man. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Pretty good.
Good. Ready to talk about some flags on this fine Friday?
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah, I love flags. Friday flags, man, it's alliteration, it's great.
Hell yeah, dude. Friday Flag Day. That's, not something that I thought of when I started scheduling this podcast on Fridays, but maybe something that I should have. Maybe something I should hashtag in our social media.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So I've been asking guests if they're drinking anything fancy for the podcast. You got anything going on your end, or?
I might have a little bit of my homebrew mead a little bit later, but nothing right now.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
It's that apple pie that I think you might be familiar with.
Oh, yeah. Dude, that is, yeah. Allegedly pretty good shit.
Allegedly. Yeah. Allegedly.
Yeah. Myself, I'm not rocking my usual Igneous IPA. I'm trying not to drink too late at night anymore, so I've got a Dr. Pepper Dark Berry.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't know if that maybe excited like one person. But yeah, I didn't know that Dr. Pepper was one to come out with other things other than like the cherry and vanilla that everyone does. But they got a dark
Yeah, that's all
berry.
I knew.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's not bad, dude. Give it a shot. If I don't know if you're a soda drinker. I'm not really typically, but again, trying to get off like drinking beer late, so I'm like, oh,
There you go. I'll give it a shot.
that was satisfying. I hope nobody actually heard me take that swig because I know there's like a whole community that loves that shit on mic, but I can't stand it. Anyway,
No ASMR in our flag talk.
no, exactly. I know this is flagged for content, but we're not going to get that nasty. All right. So I will go ahead and you know how the show works. You've been a guest before. I will go ahead and give you a brief description of the first flag that we are going to go over. You ready for this?
Let's go.
Not too tough one, but this one is described as a horizontal bicolor of blue and yellow.
Is that Ukraine?
That is Ukraine.
Okay.
I couldn't think of anything more clever to say.
like,
Yeah, I'll probably try and fill that awkward gap with like an air horn or something. But yes, this one is the flag of Ukraine, which you recognized almost immediately. I'm sure a lot of listeners did as well. This flag has really shot up the charts as far as global recognition lately, I think. Given that it's being hoisted on buildings in countries that have nothing to do with Ukraine, really. I know when I was traveling around Europe, we saw it on most buildings that had the national flag of the country we were in, too. So, yeah, this one's pretty easily spotted nowadays.
yeah, it's pretty. It's nice, but it's like not super complicated. But it's easily identifiable because it's just two kind of bright colors.
Yeah, that's the exact term that I was going to use. Easily identifiable, for sure. You see this like hanging on, functionary buildings in pretty much any country nowadays. You know what it's for. So I wanted to ask, before we go into the history of this flag, like, do you have any thoughts on the design? Like, I don't know, just the overall look, aesthetic of it.
I mean, the thing that I've heard on like social media and stuff is people think it's the yellow is like the grain and the blue is the sky.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of similar to the Welsh flag that we talked about earlier on our last show.
Yeah.
That I was here on without the dragon.
The get the hell off my lawn flag, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe they'll throw Ilya Mormutz on there, but
right, yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's a pretty I don't know, fairly pleasing to the eye flag. Like you said, it's not
a nice
too complicated.
Flag, yeah.
It's like you said, easily identifiable. And yeah, it's supposed to be exactly like you said. Well, it's kind of a folk etymology like that they came up with later type thing, because
Sure.
they're the yellow field of grain and then the blue sky above. Because there have been versions of Ukraine's flag in the past that's been the opposite color, or like the same colors but in the opposite order. The yellow on top, blue
Okay.
on bottom. The important fact being that it's always this, and while the shades change, it's always this blue and yellow that has come to represent Ukraine.
Sure.
For reasons that we'll go into. But yeah, I don't know. Like aesthetically, if I'm grading it, I'm probably giving it between like a 7 and an 8 or something. It's not super inventive or creative, but it's again, we keep going back to it. Like you said, it's easily identifiable. So that's a lot of times what you want.
Easily identifiable. It's pleasing to the eyes. It's all that you want out of a flag.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, it's kind of like a folk etymology, the field of wheat below the blue sky thing, because Ukraine has had blue and yellow as its national colors for a long, long time. Going back to the Kingdom of Ruthenia, and actually, I don't think before that, but going back at least that far, which would be in like the 1400s, somewhere in there.
Okay.
They were carrying flags into battle they weren't exactly this, but they were these colors, and it was usually a blue field with a yellow lion rampant on it. The lion rampant being not like the Welsh dragon that's just kind of standing on all fours, but the lion that's kind of like up, like reared up,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
Right. So that's the ones that they would go into battle with. It changed a little bit through the years and through the eras, but generally speaking, it was always more or less a blue and yellow flag. The lion kind of faded out of use, and then it started to become like a bicolor, like the current one. And then, like I said, the yellow and blue switched places a few times. Basically, people knew we want these two colors, and then they just couldn't agree on which order looked best.
Has it always been horizontal, or were they ever vertically bisected?
It's always been horizontal to my knowledge. I don't even think that the variants... I mean, there are state variants that are like banners are considered, I think banner is the word I'm looking for.
Sure.
The hanging versions of flags that are a little bit longer than a normal flag would be. And if there is a national crest, it's usually in the middle, but right side up for hanging, stuff like that.
Sure.
But I don't think any of those have ever been official, like the left side blue, right side yellow. Or, yeah, excuse me, the fly side and the hoist side. Not in that order.
There you go. Use your vexillology voice.
Yeah. Or the flap side, as Nick and I decided
The flap
it was.
side.
Yeah. It makes sense, man. It's the side that flaps. But I just sent you the other version because I just wanted to get your brief opinion on which one you think is better, because Ukrainians didn't know for a long time which one they liked more. So what do you think as far as blue top, yellow bottom, or the inverse?
I mean, just in my mind, blue is always the sky.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking it should be on the top.
Yeah.
Just the way I think about it. But I mean, just like this picture you just sent, it's just a live action picture of the Ukrainian flag with a little bit of clouds.
Yep. Yeah, the picture that I just sent is it's from the wiki article, but it's got like the caption is a typical agricultural landscape of Ukraine in the Kherson Oblast. And it's pretty much, for those trying to picture it, it looks almost like a Windows background, except with a flat line, not like a hill, and like a field of wheat, so it's more yellow than green. But yeah.
Yeah, it's your typical like Eastern European Windows XP generic background.
Yeah, more or less. And you and I, like, half the reason that I wanted to have you on this episode is because you and I have actually talked a little bit about Ukraine and the current Russian invasion of Ukraine and things like that. And we briefly touched on a couple flags during that episode, but obviously that wasn't the focus of it. And just kind of wanted to bring you back on and, just have like a flag version of pretty much that talk. So
sure.
I think you're going to recognize most of the other flags that we go through today. But yeah, again, I think I'm mostly done. Like, I think it's probably worth moving on from the Ukrainian flag as far as the history goes. The only other thing worth going into is that you sometimes do see a symbol in the middle of it. Are you familiar with?
I've seen that. Yeah, I think it looks kind of like a crown or something.
Yeah, let me see.
I know there's somebody around me that flies one of those.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's very cool. I didn't know. Yeah, you must have like a Ukrainian neighbor or something then in that case, because
They live right by the trebuchet that's in the next town over.
What?
It was on Mythbusters. There's a big trebuchet that like throws pumpkins and cars and stuff.
Oh, okay.
The next town over.
Cool.
From where I live.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if I was supposed to yes and you there. I was like, hold on, we're going down a different road now.
Wait a second.
Wait, I got to get into character for this shit because
no. Yeah, I think
right.
I'm pretty sure it was on Mythbusters, but
I'm definitely gonna look up that episode. I'm sure if I search Mythbusters Trebuchet, I can't imagine they've done more than one. Oh well, it's Mythbusters, so maybe.
It chucks cars and stuff. It's pretty cool.
Right. Okay. Right on. Yeah, I'll send you that now in the chat.
Yeah, that's the one. I wasn't sure what it's supposed to. At quick glance, it looked kind of like a crown. But...
Yeah, I'm gonna get this wrong pronunciation wise, but it's the Tryzub, at least in Latin letters transliteration. But it's like the
Tryzub.
Tryzub is the best way I can think of to understand it. But it comes from pretty far back in Ukrainian history and in like the shared. On my old podcast, In Chaos We Trust, I did the one episode with you, with Kickassatron, But before that, I also did a couple episodes that were just like broadly on Ukrainian history and how it relates to Russian history, how it relates to Scandinavian history, things like that.
Hmm.
And this symbol kind of harkens back to that era, the pagan Scandinavian beliefs. It's believed that originally this was representing a bird, a type of falcon, I think a gyrfalcon, which you can kind of
Okay, I
see
can
if you look
kinda.
at it and count the head at the bottom and then say that it's in flight, as in like the wings are fully back.
Yeah, like the bottom looks like a beak, and then the wings go back, and you can
Right.
see the tail. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see that.
So it harkens back to that. It originally, it's thought anyway, was from that. And then, of course, at a certain point, when the Kievan Rus and later all of Russia was Christianized, they became Eastern Orthodox. Again, listen to those other episodes if you want to hear a lot about that. But it kind of took the form of a tree. I think trizub means trident. And so when you think about Christianity and the number 3, it's the Holy Trinity.
Hmm.
So they're going to kind of rebrand it as that during that era.
Sure.
And so it kind of takes its place, or takes its shape, I should say, from many years of history and like a long, long process that kind of goes from a much more simple design that in fact only has like 2 bits sticking up on the top edge, to then later having 3, and then later being kind of co-opted by Christianity and co-opted by Ukraine as a whole.
Sure.
And yeah, there's not a whole lot about. I mean, there is actually a whole lot about it if listeners want to go look it up.
Is it used as any like special signifier when it's on the flag?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. When it's on the flag, that is the presidential standard, which most
Ah,
nations do a similar thing to. Yeah, which is even the US one is a little bit different because it's just kind of the eagle in the middle of a blue field and all that, but I don't know. A lot of them where it's more like maybe in the national consciousness. Yeah, they'll pretty much just slap it on top of the existing flag. And
I've
yeah, I
seen
can
like
show you the presidential standard. Sorry, what were you going to say?
no, I've seen like the German flag with like an eagle in the middle. Is that
Yeah,
somewhat similar?
that is yeah, I'm not sure because like that one has to do a lot with the laws that they have in Germany for flying flags.
Oh, okay.
Um
That's a little different.
that one I believe is similar in like in the way that you're thinking, in the way of it's like a government official version of the flag, whereas just the German tricolor is like okay for use like residentially and everything like that.
Sure.
You are not technically allowed to use I don't remember if it's called the Bundesflagge or if they're all called the Bundesflag, but you're not technically allowed to use the one with the eagle in the middle residentially. However, flag designers have gotten around that because the official one has the eagle on I believe anyway, on a pointed shield, like a shield that points at the bottom.
Okay.
And flag designers have gotten around this by having it as a rounded shield at the bottom. Same eagle, pretty much everything else is the same, but they can sell that one to the public, whereas they can't sell the kind of sharpened shield at the bottom version. Sorry, very quick edit. I got that right, but backwards. The rounded is official.
Okay.
This, I don't know if there's like such requirements of like you cannot have the trezib on your flag or anything like that. Given the fact that I didn't come across that in my research, I don't think that that's an official rule. I think that it's just, more generally speaking, more people have the one without it.
Sure.
But yeah, the trezib it's definitely an interesting symbol. I did not know for the longest time what the hell it was supposed to represent. Okay, and so from Ukraine and its flag, we are going to go to their main, well, yeah, I guess their main, since other states have joined the list at this point, adversary in this invasion, which guessing you can guess without me having to show you the flag.
Yeah. I'm guessing it's Russia. Yeah.
It is in fact Russia. So if you would go ahead and describe this is the current flag of Russia, not a former one.
Yes, this is the current flag of it's trisected horizontally with white on the top, blue in the middle, and red on the bottom.
Yep.
I don't know the aspect ratio, but it's
pretty
like a
much
rectangle.
all there is to it. Yeah, the aspect on this
Yeah.
one is 2:3.
2:3. Okay.
Yes. And Since we've been, judging them aesthetically, how would you rate this one just like in a vacuum, not, ignoring all current political situations and things like that?
I when I was in Europe back when I was in high school, just on like a trip, I got it confused a lot with like the French flag and other similar tricolor red, white, blue flags because they're all. I think I can't remember who it is, but there's another one that's like the same three colors but in a different order,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard to tell when you have three colors that are used so often.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, there's a French ship. Nope, that's the wrong way. I don't know which one is it, and then yeah, then I had to like think for a minute to know it was Russian.
Yeah, no,
It was
exactly.
just it just got me confused.
Right. And there's a fairly good reason for that we're going to go into as well. But yeah, it's exactly as advertised. Like you said, tricolor. It's got three, what they're called fesses, like when they're going horizontally like that.
Okay.
White on top, blue in the middle, red on the bottom. And much like the Ukrainian flag, I suspect a lot of people that weren't necessarily familiar with this one have become familiar with this one in the last few months for, unfortunate reasons for everyone. But it is what it is. We're going to mostly talk about the flags today and not get too into the politics, although I think it's safe to say that we are in support of Ukraine. So anyway, I don't know why I felt the need to throw that in, but just in case anybody
Hey.
was curious.
There goes our one Russian listener for Spooky Dice Bag.
Right? Actually, I do have a on Spooky Dice Bag. I forgot you guys had a couple. I've had a few on here as well that I've noticed. But so this is the one that I kind of wanted to get into the history of it, because the history of it is more interesting than I gave it credit for. Even when I was doing research for those In Chaos We Trust episodes on all the Russian history, all the Ukrainian history, the Viking, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really get into this flag too much, so I'm kind of glad that we're covering it this week. But without going too far back, because we are not going to have time to cover every flag that Russia has had in its history, of which it's got a long history. It's had a lot of flags, as you can imagine. We are going to start here with it, which you may notice the fact that we're starting with their current flag means that it must have changed at some point and come back. And you'd be right.
Yeah. I remember in games that like historical games, I remember seeing a similar flag represent Russia like back in like the 17 and 1800s, if memory serves. It's been a while.
Okay, yeah, it might be one of the ones that I show you that I end up
Okay.
showing you, or it might not, depending. But we'll get there.
Sure.
Yeah, in any case, so Russia's history, and again, I go into a lot of this on the other podcast. I hate to keep plugging it, but it does have some like companion info to this one. A lot of their history is trying to either keep up with the West or be perceived as Western. And for a lot of their history, they've been kind of shoved to the side as far as the Western powers go, like not really taken seriously. There are a lot of grievances about this throughout Russian history. And so Russia is constantly kind of playing this game of catch up in a way and trying to be taken seriously as a power, which ties in a lot with where they get this flag from, both their current and really their first flag, which we'll go into. But I think we've gone over, I don't remember, maybe it was in the pirate episode, on how a lot of flags are informed by their navies and like naval ensigns, things like that.
It makes sense.
Because a lot of times you didn't necessarily have a need for a national, like a unifying national flag on land. You did have armies, regiments that carried their own battle flags that would generally be linked to each other by colors or this, that, or the other. But there wasn't like a national, like one flag to rule them all kind of thing. until navies kind of necessitated that, where if you see a ship approaching, you're going to want to know exactly what nation it's from. And it's also part of the reason that flags are generally either 2-to-3 ratio or 1-to-2 even, like longer, things like that, so that you can see it from a further distance. Like, there's a reason that the Swiss flag is square, because the Swiss don't have a navy. Where would it go, you know? So they haven't really had the need for... Yeah, they haven't really had the need for a longer flag that differentiates them. But Russia is coming up, and this is during the time of Peter the Great, which he rules... Well, yeah, he rules from 1682 to 1725. And the reason they call him the Great is because he kind of does help bring Russia into the modern age, or, you know, what was then the modern age, the 1700s, and kind of gets them to be taken a little bit more seriously by the rest of Europe.
Sure.
And one way that he does this is Russia's never really had a navy, so he wants to construct one. He's captured ports in the Sea of Azov, the Baltic Sea. He's captured ports, I think, on the Black Sea, which I believe would be Russia's first warm water ports. And so he sees that the time is right, the time is ripe, whatever it is. The time is correct for Russia to start becoming a naval power. And
they've been trying ever since.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Russia's had their famous, like, Black Sea fleet, which has also famously been destroyed on numerous occasions. And there was the Snake Island incident, you know, recently too, which I know, like, some of that was hyperbole and all that, but I think Russia has since abandoned it again or something.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
I don't know. Things aren't going great for them. But anyway, Peter sees that he is going to need a navy to be taken seriously, especially as a military power. It's the age of exploration. Well, it's the end of the age of exploration, but everybody's got a big navy. And so he turns to... I'll pose this question to you. Who do you think around 1672, around like the turn of 1700, has the most shipbuilding knowledge and experience, has the most water work, I don't know, again, experience, I guess, and probably knows their way the best around maritime construction in Europe?
I would say probably either the English or Spanish. Around that time, probably the Spanish. I'll just venture a guess.
Pretty close.
Pretty close?
Well, pretty close as far as the Spanish Netherlands was a thing. And,
wait, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I feel like I set you up. I feel like I did you dirty on that one.
Spanish Netherlands. If you had said like earlier than, you know, like in the
Low Countries. In Benelux. Yeah. No, yeah. My bad. I feel like I set you up on that one.
No, that's fine.
But no, anyway, he turns to the Dutch, who at that time, like I kind of mentioned, like waterworks, they've built all these dams and dikes and like canals through their cities just to navigate and like kind of tame the sea back a little bit and reclaim some land. They've also got a ton of experience building ships.
That makes sense.
Exactly. And building some of the best ships. And so Peter he's got new ports, he's flush with cash, he goes to the Dutch, and he says...
And they're closer.
Yeah. It's closer than going all the way to France or, God forbid, England, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, across a whole nother body of water to get there. It's like a whole thing. So he goes to the Dutch, and he says, you know, he basically tells them his aims. He's looking to build a navy, and he wants kind of a flagship or flagship for lack of a better word. At least the first one constructed. He wants to take a look at it in all its glory and, you know, kind of go from there. So he has the Dutch build the ship for him, and he has it delivered to him. When it arrives, it is flying the Dutch flag, which, are you familiar with the Dutch flag, the current one?
The current one, I could probably recognize it if it was shown to me, but I think isn't it pretty similar to the Russian flag? And
it's very similar. It's kind of like similar. When you were talking about like seeing ships and not knowing exactly what country they were registered in and everything.
Sure.
There's a reason, like you said, I mean, yeah, there's so many like red, white, and blue flags, white, red, and blue flags, whatever way you want to put it.
Yeah,
but
I'm just as an American, it's always been red, white, and blue.
Exactly, yeah. It's like the natural way to say it almost. And so anyway, it flies. It's not a flying Dutchman. It is just a normal Dutch ship that sails to him the normal way, like ships do. And
No
when it gets there,
ghosts
yeah,
yet.
when it gets there, it's flying the Dutch flag.
Sure.
And I don't know, the guy at arms or whoever's delivering the ship to him says, okay, well, we sailed it here with the Dutch flag, but you need to have your own flag if you're going to be sailing this thing anywhere. And for some reason, this is like the first time that this has occurred to Peter the Great. And he's like, oh, fuck, you're right. Like, I can't just be sailing around with a Dutch flag.
Sure.
They'll think I'm Dutch. And
You don't want that.
I don't necessarily have a flag of my own. And like Russia does have like a couple flags, but they kind of date back to like Ivan the Terrible, and they're more like banners. They're, the triangle kind of shaped ones with like
Battle banners.
very
that sort of-
crudely stitched on. Yeah. And he doesn't want to, like I said, he's trying to, fit in with polite society, like Western European society and everything. So he doesn't want to just be flying this medieval like thing that looks like a piece of shit from his ship that isn't even recognizable, to keep going back to that word. So he, much like last episode where Doug and I talked about the Indonesians tearing the blue off of the Dutch flag, in this case, they do a very similar thing. He doesn't go ahead and tear, but he says, well, what if we put the red that's on the top of the flag on the bottom?
They just flip it.
Not even flip it. Like the Dutch one is red, white, blue, top to bottom in that order. So he's proposing taking the red stripe from the top and moving it to now the bottom so that the order goes to white, blue, red.
Okay.
And that's his grand idea for a flag.
World leaders have always been just at the top of their games when it comes to creativity, haven't they?
Yeah, they're master vexillologists and heraldists and all this. Yeah.
Yep.
No, there's a reason you hire people or, have advisors to do shit like that. But, it's not bad. It's just like you said, it's recognizable now, especially given current events. But like you said, when you were in Europe, I mean, there's so many white, blue, red, some combination of those flags, whether it's horizontal or vertical, that it kind of gets lost in the mix. Yeah. So anyway, that's
like if I were in a battle and all of these flags were fighting each other, I wouldn't know like who I'm supposed to be like attacking or taking cover with. Like I wouldn't know.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, especially flags get bullet holes in them and shit too, and
they get
fly like
bullet holes, muddy, under the most perfect of circumstances.
Yeah, but anyway, that is the story, the origin story of the Russian flag. There are obviously different stories that tale. I mean, even from kind of the stuff that you and I have talked about, both on this show and the other one. Obviously, you have to take some of this with a grain of salt because it probably didn't happen exactly like this. But I think historians, generally speaking, agree that the Dutch to current Russian flag more or less happened. And I could see it. I mean, a lot of these folk etymology things you could kind of see, but this one does make sense, just especially given the backdrop of the time.
Yeah, it sounds more believable than was it the blood-soaked linen with a white cross that was the Denmark flag?
Yeah, for sure.
Right. It sounds a bit more believable.
Yeah.
from just a straight up feasible perspective.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, Peter the Great, so he doesn't just take the Dutch flag and rearrange it, because he knows that's like a little bit transparent. There's not, again, for all the red, white, and blue flags there are now in Europe, there aren't as many at this time. So it would have been a little bit more obvious that he was kind of like, riffing on something. But he kind of geniusly takes it and moves the colors, changes the shading slightly. As far as we know, that, it's you're like reading from historical record at this point, so we don't know exactly the colors, and he assigns the colors to things, which he's not the first one to do this in heraldry or vexillology, but he thinks, well, I can't just take the Dutch one and rearrange it. I have to make each of these things mean something.
Sure.
So he ascribes the white on the top to heaven, being that heaven is above everything, kind of a, appeal to the religious religiosity, whatever. The blue is the Tsar, who is the power just under heaven. And
thin
then
blue line, gotcha.
The thin blue line. Fuck. Oh, God. Damn it. It's a fat blue line, too, so he was making its self-commentary there.
Maybe.
Or maybe it was Peter the Great, so it's the Great Blue Line.
The Great Blue Line, there you go.
And the red on the bottom was for Russia. For the people, I've seen it variously ascribed to Russia, like the land, and Russians as the people. I think generally speaking, you can kind of see where that wraps in together. But so yeah, that's what he ascribes the three colors to. And he says, all right, great. We got a new flag we can be proud of. And we're more or less like the Europeans now, with our non-triangular, not super weird banner that has all this like ornamentation all over it. Like, does he resist the urge to throw a double eagle in the presidential or like the Tsar standard of it? No, he can't resist that. He's a Tsar. He's going to throw a double-headed eagle up there.
Of course. You're going to give yourself a Great Blue Line. You're going to have a double-headed eagle or two.
Yeah. but by and large, like the public kind of sticks to this one. I don't think it's necessarily widely available or that the public is like buying these en masse and flying them or anything like that. But it's kind of the first flag that does unite things a little bit in Russia.
Sure.
And
most of the public is just serfs.
At this point they are. Yeah, it's not until...
So they don't really care.
I forget. I think Alexander the Third is the one that frees the serfs, and then things start to go downhill from there. Russia's weird. Yeah. But this is also the first flag, which you would probably guess, but it being the first flag of a unified Russia. But it flies all the way from, like parts of what are now like Belarus, I guess, Ukraine in the west, all the way to Peter the Great is the one that finally conquers all of Siberia. So this flag is flying all the way from Europe to almost the US, almost Alaska. So not only is this flag kind of the first unifying flag, but it's also during this period that he solidifies Russia in more or less the form that it is now, give or take, and has it from like sea to shining sea almost.
Just about, yeah.
Yeah, so overall, pretty impressive. A very good political, strategic move for him. Like I said, kind of bringing him into the fold of the European powers as well. So, I don't know. It's, to me, I don't remember if we did we rank this one on a 1 to 10? I don't guess we quite did that. I think I'd give it probably about a 7, which to me is like good, not great.
Yeah, I was thinking like a 6.5 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
Again, just because it's so easily confused with the Dutch flag, and yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, what do you think of this flag, and can you describe it for me?
This flag is 3 equal horizontal sections. What did you call them?
Fesses.
So 3 fesses. The top is black. The middle is yellow, and the bottom is white.
And do you recognize this flag at all?
I don't. At first, like quick glance, it almost looked like a Boston Bruins fan flag, but it's not.
It's more or less the same color.
I mean, it's the same color scheme.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually, when I see black and yellow, living in New England, that's kind of what you think.
Yeah.
But I almost Germany, maybe.
Yes.
But I don't know.
No, there's a reason that you think it's almost Germany. So this is another Russian flag.
Okay.
This one crops up in 1858. And remember that last one was from Peter the Great's time, so like around the turn of like 1700. This one pops up century and a half later under Alexander II. And it's exactly like you described it. Yeah, black on top. The middle is alternatingly called gold or yellow. It's kind of like almost like a Georgia well, somebody who lives close to Atlanta. It's like a Georgia Tech gold kind of, and then white at the bottom. And there's a reason that you think that it looks a little bit German. That was done on purpose. So Alexander II comes to power. Like I said, it's 150 years after Peter the Great. I believe he is in the same line as Peter the Great. So Peter the Great is his grandfather, great-grandfather, whatever the case may be. I could be wrong on that. If I'm wrong, I'll correct myself in edit.
I think they were like 500. I think it was the same family from then on till the Communist Revolution.
I mean, up until...
It was like 500 years.
I think so. I think this is the Romanovs.
I think it was right around there. The Romanovs, yeah.
Because I think the Rurik dynasty is the one that I talked about on the other podcast episodes up until Ivan the Terrible, who I think kills his son and then has no heirs. Because he's like...
It's a smart move.
Yeah, exactly.
Bold strategy, Cotton.
See how it pays off. And and so that's the end of the Rurik dynasty, and then I think the Romanovs are the one immediately after. So yeah, I'm pretty sure it's his granddad or his great granddad in any case. But he's doing the same thing. Like I told you, how Russia's always playing like kind of catch up and like almost like the waiting game to like get admitted into polite Western European society. Well, they've had like a few downturns between Peter the Great and now, and Alexander II kind of takes it upon himself he wants to change things up. He wants to reform things, not too much, not dangerously much, but a little bit. And part of that is going to be redesigning the flag. And so, like you said, the top part of this one, the top fess is black, which is now, remember the old one was the white for heaven. This is black for the Tsar. So now the Tsar is on top of things. Not heaven, the Tsar. And the yellow gold in the middle comes from an older imperial standard and is just generally a color that's used a lot by European royalty and monarchy. Obviously, it's gold. I mean, you can... Like, it's not hard to imagine.
Yeah. Monarchs are pretty full of themselves.
Right. So he pulls that in. And the other reason for the gold is there's a lot of gold on Peter the Great's personal banner. So he's drawing another link back to that. And the white comes from St. George's horse on the city crest, the seal of Moscow. And also is a very popular color with European monarchs. If you think of like the French royal flag for a long time, it's more or less just a white flag with like way too many tiny fleur-de-lis on it.
Yep.
And yeah, generally speaking, white and gold, good monarchic colors. I mean, like the flag of the Vatican is white and gold, and that's the kingdom of heaven, so
sure,
it's not
makes sense.
Far stretch. But anyway, so he comes in and he kind of shakes things up and changes the flag to this, which... Real quick, before I get off it and forget, what's your opinion of this flag aesthetically?
It feels a little bit more threatening than the other one. With the black and yellow on top, it just feels very authoritative.
Huh? That's a good word that I don't think I would have thought of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My Russian history is not great. Was he more? What was he known as, like a more authoritative czar, or was he more of like a reformist? As much as they can be.
I don't know. I think Alexander II was pretty shitty overall. I don't think, because it's Alexander III, his son, that comes in and is known as the reformer for quite a while until things kind of go bad there too.
That's the Alexander I was thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah. So I
know it was one of them.
I can't remember too much honestly about Alexander II. I know I would have read it while I was researching this episode, but a lot of times my notes, I'm a little ADD with my, everything. And a lot of times my notes get a little messed up. Okay. Oh, I'm wrong. You were correct and I was wrong. Alexander II is the Okay, he's known as Alexander the Liberator, and he was the one that emancipated the serfs in 1861.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, you were spot on with that. For some reason, I was thinking that was the third. I don't remember why I had that in my head, but I had that stuck in my head in any case. So yeah, so he does come in, and I mean, it makes sense with what we said. Like, he comes in and shakes things up, changes the flag, etc. You might not expect the Liberator to be the one that, okay, now the Tsar is the head of everything instead of heaven, but, you know, you take what you can get, I guess, in Russian history.
I mean, yeah, it's no comment from the pagan looking in.
Right, yeah. So this flag, again, he ties these certain meanings to the colors. It also does tie his legacy back to Peter the Great and Peter the Great's personal banner, which was more or less these colors, just not... It was a banner, so it was like a picture of, I don't know, him on a horse and all this other stuff. It wasn't just a tricolor like this, but he used the same colors to harken back. Plus, the flip side of this, how you said it looked vaguely Germanic, is it's meant to. So, yeah. Around the time of Alexander II, which is, he's ruling in the 1850s to 1881.
Sure.
Prussia, then Germany, and Austria/Austria-Hungary are the kind of main powers, at least in Central Europe at the time, which is a lot closer to him than Western Europe.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And he gets to the point where he really wants to he wants to ally himself with those two central powers, for lack of a better word, which that central powers moniker won't come up for another few decades, but
I never heard it.
And so the black and white, like, you know a bit about like Prussian history, you know those are traditionally Prussian colors.
Yeah.
The black and white on the bottom, and then Austria has not always had the red, white, red flag that it has today, but it used to have a bicolor of just black and gold, black and yellow, like that. Mm-hmm. So the top half is more or less Austria's flag, and then the top third and bottom third are more or less Prussia's, and then like later Germany's flags. Germany adds red, but other than that. And so he's really trying, you guys.
He's trying to be like the big kids.
I mean, it's like Mean Girls. It's like he's really trying to, look the part, act the part, do all that. Like, on Wednesdays wear pink or whatever the fuck it is.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah, pretty much. And so yeah, it's kind of a genius move from him. A lot of people in Russia really do not like the flag. Like, I haven't said my opinion on it aesthetically. I can definitely see your aggression point, but I also think it just looks kind of bland and uninteresting. I'd probably give it like a 4, which it's amazing how much colors can do, because the other one I gave a 7, but
yeah, it's the white on the bottom.
Yeah.
It's just I don't like the white on the bottom.
It's a weird, ugly gradient. It's like a gradient that doesn't use like the whole color spectrum or something.
Yeah, it's
like if you apply that filter to like a normal thing where it turns like, black to white and like magenta to cyan and all that. Like, I don't know. It seems like somebody like fucked up. It seems like somebody really messed up on this.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, it is what it is. So yeah, he's got dual purposes. He's trying to tie himself back to Peter the Great's legacy, and he's trying to align himself more with Germany and Austria, which he does. They end up forming the alliance of... Is it the alliance? Yeah, of the 3 emperors.
Okay.
And so, goal accomplished. But, like I said, kind of up the top of this, talking about Alexander II stuff, or at least talking about the Liberator one, which I thought was the third. A lot of his, liberatory, his freedom stuff, it kind of goes sour and goes awry. And he has to kind of backtrack on a few things to the point where he eventually is assassinated and, is not thought highly of even before that. There's a reason you get assassinated.
Typically, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean...
And so his son comes to power, Alexander III, who tries to distance himself from his controversial father. And one of the things that results from that is that he changes the flag back. So as a
It
result,
fixes everything.
yeah, yeah, right.
Just
I mean, there's a lot in a symbol. It can't quite fix everything, but there is a lot to it. But as a result, I mean, this black, gold, white flag is pretty much only associated with Alexander II's reign, considering that's when it flew. So I wasn't sure if that was the older Russian flag that you're referring to in like computer games and stuff.
And no, I'm pretty sure the one that I typically play takes place in like the early 1700s, so it's the Peter the Great flag.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just the Alexander II one is just it's not a good flag.
It's not good. I get what he was going for. It's definitely European. It's, you know, a tricolor, so welcome to Europe. But yeah, other than that, aesthetically, it's not good. It doesn't really. I don't know. Like the black can't be seen as well as night, and the white can't be seen as well during the day. I don't know. It leaves a lot to be desired, I think.
Yeah, it's just yeah.
But yeah, like I was starting to say, the Alexander III comes to power and has to distance himself from pretty much everything that his dad did. And again, to solve everything, like you said, he changes the flag back, and then he goes on to do some other stuff that for our purposes isn't super important. But he never actually like kind of codifies the flag. He just changes it back so that official buildings are going to fly the white, blue, red again.
Sure, makes sense.
His son, however, Nicholas II, who
I've heard of him.
yeah, I was going to say a lot of us have heard of, he declares on his coronation day that the white, blue, red flag is the official flag of all of Russia and all of Russians. So he codifies it and makes it so that it's official. It's not just the flag of the Tsar or the flag of the Romanovs or the flag of the government, you know, with a capital G. It is the flag of all Russia and the flag of all Russians from Nicholas II's coronation day until, I'm sure, his death long, long into the future.
Yeah, he lived until like till almost the 1920s.
Almost.
Almost.
Yeah. If you know much about history, especially early 20th century history, you know that Tsar Nicholas II was not super long for this world. And after there was a Russian Revolution in 1905 that kind of puttered out when he decided to give in to a few of their demands and he founded the Duma, which is their parliament, and he granted them a few rights here and there, and it was just enough basically to kind of cool the peasants off and let them go back to what they were doing. But then he kind of went back on it every once in a while, and anytime the Duma did something that he didn't like, he would just abolish the Duma. Which...
Perfect leader, yeah.
Right?
Can't think of any leaders wanting to do that now.
Yeah. So it's basically the Duma exists at his pleasure, and well, yeah, first off, to what you said. But yeah, it's like if any time the Duma goes against you, you abolish it, then why have it, you know?
Exactly.
So eventually the peasants, not just the peasants, I mean like the proletariat, the peasants, the farmer, the like factory work, you know,
Sure.
People that aren't the highbrow hobnob people, they get wise to this, and they're like, all right, so every time we do something that you don't like, you just fuck off and abolish the Duma. So we're going to do something about it. And so I know he came in with one flag, but he went out with quite another, which I'm going to show you now. Oh, shit.
Up, it's upside down.
Which I'm going to show you now.
Yeah, I don't think he ever officially recognized that one before his death.
I don't believe so.
No.
Could you describe it well with just me showing it to you and without a screenshot?
It is. Yeah, it is it's a red field, and on the hoist side there is a hammer and sickle in yellow with a star above it.
You don't say.
It's I want to say it's the Soviet Union flag, but there's probably a better name for it.
Ding. No, I mean really just flag of the USSR.
Yeah.
Yeah, got that one in the mail the other day. Don't think I'm going to be flying it here in Tennessee anytime soon. A lot of these flags I just get for, you know, historical curiosity and like just like
Sure.
It would be cool to have that kind of thing. But yeah, so He came in, pronounced one flag, and by the time he was out, an entirely new flag was being pronounced. And I love history and I love flags for reasons like this. Like you said, it's the flag of the USSR. It's got the hammer and sickle. It's technically got a gold outlined red star, but it's
is that
a
okay?
gold
Yeah.
outline of a star, basically, with the
Yeah, that's
thing
what
being
it
the
is.
same color as the rest. And yeah, the part of the reason that it's the USSR flag and not it wouldn't be like the flag of the Russian SSR, because that's a different flag.
Okay.
Because all of the SSRs, we don't have time to get into, which I do want to do an episode, and maybe I'll have you back for that one, but specifically on those SSR flags, because they're like just different enough to be interesting. It might even be a shorter episode.
Sure.
But they generally have the hammer and sickle not usually and the star, and then some kind of other stylized type thing.
Sure. Makes sense.
Yeah, and we won't really spend... I'll put it in the notes just so that I remember to put it into the show notes, more or less, which, listeners, again, go to the show notes if you want to see all these. I have a feeling you probably know about what this one looks like. But I didn't have a ton of notes on it, but I did have a good segue from it. So I think probably worth going into that.
Sure.
Because again, everyone's seen this flag. You know pretty much what it represents. The red came to represent communism, socialism, then later communism, and the hammer and sickle, workers of agricultural
Workers
and
of the
industrial.
world.
Yeah, unite.
Yeah.
So I think it's worth transitioning from that one into this one. And could you go ahead and describe that one?
Okay. It's unevenly bisected for like the flap side. Like the first fifth looks like an ugly Christmas sweater. The top of the bisect next to the first fifth is the Soviet flag, and the bottom like quarter of it is green.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the hoist side design is called.
I mean, that's pretty much it. The picture of the embroidery is a ruchnik, which is a hand towel.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hand towel, and it pretty much just comes from like Belarusian folk design. I know last episode we talked about Liberia has this quilting tradition that comes from its past. Belarus, at various times Belarusia, has this kind of, just their own kind of design, much like Armenians have. I know Azeris have kind of similar designs to these. That's generally shows up in like linens and like costumes and things like that, like around a sleeve or kind of something like that.
Sure. Yeah, it looks like something you would see on like Eastern European folkish, not folkish, folk, like attire, clothing, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Kind of what it.
And I guess by saying all that, I gave away which flag this was. But this is
that the current Belarusian flag?
It is not.
Is that the one under this? That's when it was a Soviet.
This is not the current Belarus flag. Let me show you the current Belarus flag.
So it's the same thing without the sickle and hammer, and the design on the hoist side is a little different.
And that's part of the reason that I'm bringing Belarus into this. I mean, one, because they are a now somewhat major player in the Russian aggression in Ukraine, but also because their flag history kind of plays into the ties that they currently have with Russia. Like,
sure,
it took them, this flag with the hammer and sickle and the star on it was their flag from 1951 till 1991, at which point they changed it briefly to one that we'll go over in a minute, and then pretty promptly changed it right back. So when, like, you and I talk, we don't go into Belarus as much on our episode. We more talked about Moldova, Transnistria, and you talked a lot about Kaliningrad, that Russian exclave.
Yep.
But we talk about them kind of in relation to the Russian aggression, and Belarus being a huge part of that is like smack dab in the middle of Russia and Kaliningrad, more or less. And it's just like the lack of design change on the flag kind of goes a long way in telling the story of how they really, really want it to be still tied to Russia. It's not just the like very minimal design changes from taking the hammer and sickle off, but I mean Lukashenko has been in charge the whole time as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And I don't know. It's the naming of the. Well, I don't know how much I can fault them for the fact that their country's name is basically White Russia, but you can see basically a lot of. I don't know. I mean, you could change it, but there's like a lot of historical reasons you wouldn't want to, as many as ones that you would. So,
I mean, yeah, it's there's a lot of.
I don't know. Maybe
the Rus people and.
Yeah.
And they've pretty much allied themselves with Russia, from what I can tell, pretty historically, and even into the modern day.
Yeah, I mean, Russia is allowed to and is conducting like operations from Belarusian territory. And I think Belarus is doing the same. Like, I think they have their own forces proper in Ukraine now. Anyway, so let's go over just real quick on the design. First off, I don't know, which one do you like better, the modern or the Soviet era?
I mean, the communist, the high school communist in me does like the Soviet hammer and sickle. I mean, obviously there's a bit more.
Yeah, what about the design on the left? So like ignore the hammer and sickle and star.
Oh, just the design on the left.
No, I was asking for both, but yeah, what about that?
No. I think I like the newer one better. It's just got the red is more pronounced. Doesn't seem like they're using as much negative space for their design.
You know what? This took me a really long time to figure out. They've actually switched the white and red. That's the only thing.
Is that all it is?
That's not all it is. It's resized too. You're not wrong. Like there.
Okay.
But not only did they take away the communist insignia, but they switched the white and red. And then
I can see that now.
Like
yeah.
the design, like it kind of like stretched it in a slightly different way too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. It took me so fucking long to notice that though, and I've been looking at this for like, I don't know, 3 days or something. And I was like, there's something else. I just can't put my finger on it. It's like, I know they're different sizes, but there's something else too. Not to mention the green is slightly different, but you know, that's kind of like incidental almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really love or hate either of them. Belarus has never had my favorite flag, but I have always thought it was interesting.
Sure.
Especially as like someone growing up and like my Atlas was my favorite book, and just looking up all this shit on like some country that I never hear about in the news or anywhere else. And then I'm like, oh, they got a kind of cool thing going on their flag.
I do. I like the design on the hoist side, because so many European countries are just plain colors, or you have like the United Kingdom flag that's just like 3 different crosses intersecting with each other.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, that's a pretty it's a unique design on the hoist side to have.
Yeah, for sure.
Like just that sort of a pattern there.
Like no other country has that.
No.
And it's cool to like incorporate like folk design, folklore, like type things.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are. Well, I know for a fact. I just can't think of any off the top of my head, but I know there are flags of like cities, towns, municipalities that have a lot of like folk design kind of things on them like that. But you don't generally see it on a national flag.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's kind of cool.
It's pretty neat.
I have another one that I want to show you here on the camera on Discord.
It's 3 is the thesses. The top thess is white, middle is red, bottom is white.
Yeah.
Is that?
Sorry, I just scoot away.
Okay.
I wasn't anywhere near
No,
the
it's
mic.
fine.
Yes, no, that is a perfect description of this flag. Do you have any idea what this might be? Given our current topic and
given the current topic, is it like a pro-war flag or an anti-war flag?
More of the second one.
More of this, okay.
It is an anti-Lukashenko flag.
Anti-Lukashenko, okay.
Or at least that's the way that it's currently being used, which is part of the reason that I own it. one, like I said, I like to get flags that, like, I don't know how long this flag will be available for purchase.
Sure.
Depending on, world events and things like that. But two, I don't know. I kind of like the design. It's very simple, and I'll send it to you here in the chat as well. But it's very simple, but it is the first attested flag of Belarus as its own kind of independent nation, which was, I think, 1918. They declared a republic, like very short-lived republic. And you may notice it's pretty much the Polish colors, and Belarus has a lot historically in common with Poland and Lithuania. But it recropped up. It actually, so yeah, it was adopted in 1918, and then, like I said, very briefly. And then it recropped up because, remember how I said that Belarusian one with the hammer and sickle was in use between 51 and 91?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's...
Between 91 and 95, they actually went back to this white, red, white flag.
Okay.
But then... Oh, wait, no. You know what? I'm wrong. They had this as their national flag from August 25th, 91 to December 10th, 91. So, a matter of months.
It's got a really long... Yeah, it's a long history it's got there.
It's a lot of seconds.
Yeah.
If that's how you want to count it. Yeah, and I'm not seeing... Well, there must have been another one in the middle or a slight design change. Because the new one, it's telling me dates from 95, so... But anyway...
Well, what did they use up until, like, 1951?
Until 1951.
Were they part of the Soviet Union after the revolution?
Yeah, they were starting in 1919. And
okay.
A lot of, like, early days SSR flags were basically just a red field with, like, the initials in Cyrillic and or a local language, if there was one, like Tajikistan. Some of the ones out there are Kazakh. They just said, like, SSRB in this case. So, like, the SSR of Belarusia. And they're not very elaborate. Like, I can send you...
Let's see. Oh, yeah.
Like that.
Okay.
Yeah, they're kind of in that vein. And they're very unexciting. Like I said, I'll probably have an episode that I will most likely invite you back on, and we'll go through a lot more of these, like, Soviet-era flags and things like that. But by and large, like, when I think of the Soviet flags, I think it starts in about the 50s, the early 50s, where a lot of the SSRs start to get, like, even a somewhat slightly interesting flag. Because
this one you just sent me is a little... It's just boring.
Bland. Yeah, it says BSSR at the top left in yellow letters. That's it, in Cyrillic.
Yeah. In Cyrillic. So it looks like a weird, like, thing between a capital E and a lowercase b, CCP.
Mm-hmm.
For the listeners at home.
Yeah. I may include that one in the show notes. I don't know if it's worth it.
Yeah.
Since we talked about
strange.
it, I might, but... yeah, like, it's around, like, the 50s that a lot of the SSRs start to get actually, like, I say interesting, but it's a relative kind of ball game with interesting. But they start to get, I think Belarus actually may be one of the more interesting of the SSR flags. Ukraine's was the one that I told you I didn't even really want to talk about because there's not really, I'll send it to you now. It's not really a whole lot to say. That's as interesting as theirs got.
It's just the hammer and sickle flag, but the hammer and sickle more toward the center, but still not in the center, and the bottom, like, quarter of it is blue.
Yeah.
That's nothing.
It's literally nothing. It's they took the USSR flag and you see that in most of the SSRs is they take the USSR flag and they slap, like, a line on it, either on one side or the bottom or the other. And that's pretty much as much thought as they give it. But, like, a lot of Soviet vexillology, I mean, that's, like, a valued thing in their vexillology is the fact that they all do look the same, but slightly different.
Sure.
And again, we'll go into that later. I'll have you back in, I don't know, a few months or whatever it is. But yeah, I'll include that Ukrainian one for the listeners on in the show notes too. Just know that it's not super interesting. And the reason we're not going more into it is because of that. I will say that it does kind of bring up a point about how the Soviet Union allowed certain SSRs to have a little bit more national pride than others. Like Kickass looking at the Belarusian one, like that thing that we've been talking about that's on the hoist side, like that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is really cool.
It's an inherently Belarusian thing too, so to get to keep it on your flag kind of does give you somewhat favored status in a sense.
Okay.
Whereas the early flag of the Ukraine SSR, I know, I said I wasn't going to go into this too. The early flag of the Ukrainian SSR was their current national flag in a pretty small canton of just like the rest of it being a red field.
And it's flipped. Their current national, it's the flipped version of the current national flag.
And it's flipped. So, but the USSR wanted to, as I talked about in those In Chaos We Trust episodes, kind of stamp out any nationalism that wasn't Soviet nationalism.
Sure.
You know, regionalism, things like that. So they didn't allow Ukraine to have this for very long before they had it for a year, if that.
A year.
Yeah. Before they had to get much more boring. But yeah, I like going back to the white, red, white flag. It, like I said, it had a brief resurgence at the collapse of the Soviet Union, but then Lukashenko, being him, wanted to keep the flag. He eventually, I think it even took them a minute to drop the hammer and sickle. I think that might be the 91 to 95 missing kind of time that I'm thinking of, and reverse the colors on the hoist side. But which one do you prefer? The current one is definitely more ornate. I'll give it that.
For Belarus?
For Belarus, sorry, we're going back. We're jumping around.
Again, it's the whole really liking Che Guevara in high school thing that's probably pushing me more toward the Soviet era one.
Out of the
Belarusian.
All right. What if we eliminate that one?
We eliminated that one?
Yeah, between the white, red, white and the red,
current.
green, yeah.
I mean, I still like the red, green one a little bit more, but I think as far as a national flag goes, you want it to be able to be drawn by an elementary school kid. And the white, red, white is clearly just an easier flag to draw.
Yeah, for sure. I'm similarly. No, sorry. What?
I like the folk art on the side. It's just, I don't know. I like it.
Yeah, this one.
If it was just a green and red without the folk art, I would totally be on the white, red, white. But
this one's left me more torn than most national flags. Definitely than ones that I've covered on this show. Because I generally agree with that principle that says that an elementary schooler should be able to reproduce it fairly accurately and easily.
Sure. Yeah.
And this design on the hoist side is not quite that. You can do that from memory for sure. You could maybe do it from a drawing if you're in elementary school, but even then it's tough. But
Diamonds
I still
are so
like
hard
it
in elementary school. I don't.
I still like it though. It's almost like one of those things that you don't want to like, but you do.
Yeah.
Because obviously, you and I have, without going into politics, we have somewhat similar politics, I think. And there's something that kind of speaks to me about this, white, red, white one. That's kind of, I don't know if revolutionary is exactly the word, but at least, kind of. They want to have a revolution against Lukashenko.
It's anti-authoritarian.
Anti-authoritarian, yeah. That's a better way to put it in this case for sure, yeah. But that's the other kind of modern sense that it's cropped up was it 2021 that they had their, I'm trying to remember, their 2020 when they had their presidential elections and Lukashenko won and the margin was not even close to the point where it's clearly stolen, and everybody gets up in arms, and people, because this flag, the white, red, white, has been banned for several years, if not over a decade, but people had finally kind of had enough and been you know what, fuck it, I'm either making one or buying one from somewhere and I'm taking it out. And people had the gall to go out in the streets of Belarus, where again they call it Europe's last dictatorship, although Putin is hold my beer, but depending on how, if you consider Russia European, which parts yes, parts no, but
yeah,
main part of Europe's last dictatorship, and to like have the balls to kind of like go out and fly this flag, and it's a strength in numbers thing. I mean, I don't know if you saw many of the
definitely.
Belarusian protests over
A little bit.
2020, 2021.
Yeah, that was yeah. I remember hearing about it and kind of. I think I might have made a couple of social media posts in solidarity with them, but
Yeah.
that there's not a whole hell of a lot I could do from where I am.
No. But yeah, I like it for that reason. I don't know. It speaks to that part of me. And from there, we're actually going to go to our final flag of today, which is another I'm going to show you one and then send you after. So if you could, I'll hold this up and step back from the mic for a second and then go ahead and describe it. It shouldn't be too hard.
So it's very similar to the Belarusian flag, except for this one has a blue stripe in the middle. So it's white, blue, white.
Yes, sir. And yeah, that's exactly it. Do you know this one? It's linked. It's sort of linked.
Is it sort of linked? Is it like the anti-Putin flag, or is it? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'm getting a thumbs up. Like.
Yeah, I'm not used to having the video, so I take advantage when I do. But yeah, so this is the Russian anti-war flag. It is a symbol of opposition to the invasion. It's opposition to Putin. And I don't know I'm not ascribing importance in levels to this, but it's also the insignia of the Freedom for Russia Legion, which are former Russian soldiers who are now fighting for the other side.
Okay.
And you've seen it in early days. I didn't know if this was like media nonsense or bullshit or whatever, but you've seen it on several like flag insignias that they have on their sleeves. And it's since been confirmed that like they are making and wearing these patches to signify that they're part of that legion. So
I've been following like anarchist protests in Russia a little bit, and I haven't seen it, but so it's used more on the military side. I haven't seen it as much.
Yeah, it's definitely used on the military side, and it's used outside of Russia. Like I think it is banned in Russia. Although I'm sure that like these anarchist protests that you're watching are probably also using other banned symbols, but
yeah, they keep getting arrested.
Yeah, I was gonna say like they're not known for right, like that tracks. But yeah, it's I don't think it started in the military, and there's actually two kind of people that it's weird. I want to say like take credit is the normal term you would use here, but both of them say like, hey, it's cool. Whoever came up with it because it's like for the cause type thing. So nobody's trying to be shitty about like, no, I came up with it kind of thing.
Give me 10% of all the.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a Kai Katanina, who's a Berlin-based user experience designer, and a Russia-based art manager with the pseudonym Fish Sounds in Russian, which is Zvuki Rub. I don't know, Rib.
Okay.
Also known as assez jeune, which I know that because that's French for pretty young, fairly young. And it was first used on February 28th, 2022, which I don't think was too long after the invasion, because I remember recording episodes.
That's right around then.
Yeah. I was going to say, I remember recording episodes for the other podcast around that, like late February, I think.
Let me check Ukraine Without Hype, because they'll have that date. Yeah, February 20. What is that? February 20th, they were reporting about artillery fire coming in from the east.
Okay.
So.
And yeah, this was
English language Ukrainian thing I follow.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, not even a week. This was first used on social media anyway, so probably not in a physical flag form, but as a JPEG or whatever on February 28th. So you said 22nd they were shelling?
The 20th they were the
20th, yeah.
Thing that they released on the 20th, so probably on the 18th or 19th.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so not very long after. It did not take people long.
No.
And do you have any idea about the symbolism on this one? Actually, here, let me share it to the chat first, but
Well, you said that we were joking earlier about the blue stripe on the Russian flag being the Great Blue Line for the Tsar. So is that just an anti-Tsarist thing that they got going on there?
It's not
Is it?
quite anti-czarist.
Well,
It's
Tsarist, Putin being the modern day Tsar.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I was thinking.
They arrived at it differently, but I mean,
Okay.
it's like I said, there's two kind of co-creators, and they both say, like any flag, and like we talk about on this show a lot, like flags are up to what you see when you look at them, like your interpretation. So
Sure.
this one, yeah, they arrived at it differently, but it does kind of cast a similar message to what you were saying. It is more or less, it's a different shade of blue, but it's more or less
Yeah.
the flag of Russia with the red bottom taken out, because they said that the red was associated with blood, violence, war,
Sure. Okay, that makes
all
sense.
of that. Imperialism,
Yeah.
like imperialist tendencies, militarism,
Sure.
etc. And they also, I don't remember exactly where I saw this. I saw this like months ago when I was actually looking at this, but I couldn't find it in any of my sources this week. But it was based on the red, white of Belarus, as well as just being the Russian flag taking the red out for the violence and all that. So it kind
Sure.
of, it's like almost like a send up of the Belarusian one with another double meaning on top of it. And again, with the Belarusian one, that's part of why I bought it, was
Yeah.
because I just think they look cool. I don't know how long they're going to be available. I know I just sent you the JPEG of the Ukrainian one, but I got one of those too.
Oh, there you go. That you could probably fly down there and be fine,
Yeah.
especially right now.
Right. But yeah, and that more or less wraps up the flags that I wanted to go over today. Do you have any final thoughts on any of these on the white, blue, white, or
I mean, not really. I totally get the sentiment, and once you said it's just the Russian flag with the red taken out, I was like, "Doy, that makes sense." But yeah, I mean, I totally get the sentiment. It's a very, I don't know, anybody flying it over there is got some balls on them, but
yeah,
it's
for
always
sure.
a good thing.
It's most of the pictures I see of people flying it are like Russian expats that are in like Czechia or Poland or Germany, wherever they may be.
Sure.
Yeah.
That
But
makes sense.
yeah, I like it a lot. I don't know why. I think
It's
again, it design wise,
it's the anti-Putin, anti-authoritarian tendencies that I think both you and I kind of tend toward.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, I think it's mostly that, and I think it's also the like kind of tie in with the independent, non-tyrannical Belarus flag that
Yeah, exactly.
even kind of doubles down for me or whatever. This other link that I sent you is this flag, this white, blue, white, has its own website, which is easy enough for me to just. I'll link it in the show notes too, but I'll also just say it here for the listeners.
whitebluewhite.info.
Yeah, whitebluewhite.info, and then it's got languages at the top. It's got a ton of them. Just click over to EN for English, and you can go from there. And you can read a lot of what it's about. We pretty much went over most of it in not so many words, but the gist of it is their first and main point is that despite everything, and this is quote, despite everything, we are Russians who cannot give up self-identification. The flag of free Russia is similar to the current Russian flag, but it does not have red, a symbol of war and blood. We have replaced the bloody stripe with a white one because we stand for peace with Ukraine and demand respect for human rights in our country. Russians who come out to protest under the flag of free Russia are refusing military expansion and rejecting claims on the territory of foreign states.
I can get behind that.
In the Russia of the future, there is no place for autocracy, militarism, or the cult of violence and blood. We are opening a new page in the history of Russia, a Russia that respects human rights and freedom of speech. So, yeah, I think the first part of that is the most important part because, again, you don't want to give up your self-identification as Russian. And I even, in Chaos and Trust episodes, we make sure to say that our beef is not with Russia or Russians. Our beef is with Putin, who is one person
That's right.
controlling all of this, like a puppet master. So
Exactly.
yeah, I mean, I can definitely appreciate what this flag is trying to do. It's trying to say, like, hey, you're not a stateless people. You have a state. It's ruled by an autocrat right now, but it won't always be. And here's a flag that you can fly and be proud of. And especially, it's gotten a little bit of a media attention. Like, people will know both that you're Russian and that you're on the right side of things.
Sure. That makes sense.
So yeah, I love flags as symbols, man.
Oh, isn't that what they all are? Like,
Yeah, I mean,
they all, in one way or another, they're all supposed to symbolize your ideals, your inclusivity, your anti-authoritarianism, your solidarity with the working class, whatever.
Or your authoritarianism in some cases, and
yeah,
I mean,
your authoritarianism.
It's not always on the right side of things, or correct side of things.
No, usually on the right side of that too.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, those are the flags that I had for us this week.
All right.
Glad I got to have you on again, especially given, like I said, that we recorded that one other episode that kind of fed into a few of kind of what I was doing over there with the In Chaos We Trust politics pod.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I feel like I'm talking too much, so let's move into plugs. Well, all right. Would you like to go ahead and plug anything that you've got in the works, or
Sure,
just anything at all?
I have a weekly D&D podcast, Spooky Dice Bag, comes out every Monday. You're eventually going to be on it as your own special, unique character who's awesome. I'm also a producer on Found Footage Dracula, a Blu-ray disc that you probably can't find anywhere. It's as elusive as a real Dracula. And yeah, I mean, those are the two big places that I'm at. You can follow me on all my socials. It's, at Kickassatron on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, and Reddit, and other places.
And at Spooky Dice Bag for the socials for that.
Oh,
one, right?
at Spooky Dice Bag for the at Spooky Dice Bag, which I usually link to it in my Kickassatron thing, but at Spooky Dice Bag for updates and stuff. I have like automatic Facebook updates. I don't really use that too much anymore, but it posts, so
Fair enough.
that's good. But other than that, no, I'm all around. Check me out. Send me a message. Let me be on your podcast. Buy the movie that I produced that I don't make any money off of. And yeah, check out Spooky Dice Bag.
Yeah, great. Go check all that stuff out. That sounds super interesting, especially the Dracula thing, personally. And as far as our plugs, you guys probably know where to find us, but if you go to flagged.rocks, FLAGGED.ROCKS, you can find all of our links there, from our social to any Kickstarters. There's a Kickstarter that is going to help a friend right now, and a few of our other links there. If you want to just go straight to our socials, we are at flagged4 content on all of that stuff. And I think that's pretty much it. I don't have anything else immediately coming out, other than I would say check out the Patreon, because I am going to start doing some solo episodes there. They won't be nearly as long as these are. You won't have to listen to me talk for an hour and a half, or an hour even, probably, but that is going to be like a little added bonus to just currently not having ads on those episodes. So go and check that out. If it's worth $5 a month, we'd love to see you over there. And on that note, yeah, Doug gave me kind of a wrap up last week. I didn't love it. I'm still searching. You got anything?
Until next time, keep on flapping.
Thanks for listening, y'all. All right, yeah, I love it. Right on. I think I might start doing that, getting the guests every week to come up with something. Usually I won't spring it on them like that.